Honestly unbalanced.
Welcome to Ashana, who Carly and I have both been following for years and years. It started with listening to your beautiful angelic music that you weave and the crystal bowls into with your beautiful voice. And all of a sudden, we're talking to you here tonight. So thank you so much for being here on the podcast.
Oh, I am so happy to be here and delighted to see you brought your friends to come
Yes,
meet with
yeah,
my
we
friends.
thought
Yeah.
Ashana's got some a massive selection of crystal bowls in the background, and Carly and I have just selected two to support the space tonight. But yeah, just to introduce lovely Carly Grace as well. So it's normally listeners, it's normally, as you know, my lovely hubby Adam Hustler, who is the co-host. But I selfishly wanted Ashana and all of the crystal bowls questions to myself tonight, and I know Carly feels exactly the same way. So Carly Grace was my first introduction to sound healing, so it just felt really perfect that she came along as co-host tonight. So thank you,
Oh,
Carly.
thank you for having me.
So Ashana, I thought I would start with an opening question about how you first ever came into contact with your first ever crystal singing bowl, because it's such a beautiful story, and you share
Oh,
that it still makes you cry when you tell it.
it
And
does.
yeah, I just read your beautiful book, Crystal Singing Bowls, the angelic, I have to read it out, the angelic sound of healing, relaxation, and spiritual awakening. And I think I read it all in 2 or 3 sittings. And yeah, just how you came into contact with the crystal bowls initially.
Well, it is a wonderful story, and I don't ever get tired of telling it because it's one of those places, and I love to share with people. There's times in your life where you've been going long on a certain trajectory, and the universe, you're on the soul level, I believe, on the soul level, our soul goes, okay, here's the marker. And now from this point on, life as you know it is irrevocably changed.
Mm.
And that moment when I met my first crystal singing bowl was that. It was life as I knew it was over. And I was living in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, New Mexico at the time. I had a little house out in Espanola, and a tiny little house. It was absolutely adorable. And I got a phone call from one of my mentors and teachers at the time. And she said, "Have you ever heard of crystal singing bowls?" Now you got to remember, this was 1998, 1999, and crystal bowls were like nowhere. Okay.
Mm.
Hardly anybody knew what a crystal singing bowl was, let alone sound healing. Nobody talked about sound healing. There was no such thing as sound baths at the time. It was a brand new emerging thing. And so she asked me about this, and I said, "No, I have never heard of a crystal bowl." And she goes, "Oh, these are right up your alley." And so immediately it was like sight unseen. I bought one. And I didn't think twice about it. It was a big classic frosted bowl because those were pretty much the only kind of bowls that were around, the big heavy white ones. And I ordered it, and it arrived 3 weeks later in this gigantic box. And I took it out and I opened it up, and it was like filled with 8 bazillion peanuts. And there was another box, or like, so I'm like, oh my God, we're doing like Russian dolls here. So I hauled out the other box, I opened it up, and there was a bazillion peanuts inside of that one. And inside, tucked inside all of these peanuts, was this white crucible, and it was about 14-inch G crystal singing bowl. And so I pulled it out. I took it out of the plastic bag. I put it on its little O-ring, and I picked up the mallet and I tapped the side of the bowl. And tears just started going down my face. I just started crying. And the very first thought I had was that light had come to live in my house.
Mm.
Yeah, I say that. It's just because I can
Oh.
see myself standing in the kitchen, in my little kitchen in Espanola, and everything that meant to me, being there and where I was with myself at that time in my life. And I think I cry now because things have changed. It's ridiculous
Oh,
to do
you're
this,
starting
but
me off
things
as
have
well.
changed like so dramatically. And it was a turning point. So there was that light had come to live in my house. And the very next thought I had was, one day I'm going to put these into music.
Mm.
Now, I had done, many recordings. I'd been a singer-songwriter and a musician and an artist for, God, like since I'm 15 years old. So figure it out. I mean, right now I'm 67, so it's like 55 years been
Wow.
doing music on a professional level. And I knew like instantly that that's what I was going to do. And sure enough, 3 weeks later, I had 7 bowls. I was just like a mad woman. I was like, and, and I had them in my house, and then I had 9, and I immediately started playing them, singing with them, exploring with them, meditating with them. I created, with guidance at the time, I had created what really people now are calling a sound bath. Okay. But it was guided meditation through sound. And I started doing these everywhere. I never charged a penny for them. I was like, here, take this sound, take this meditation, experience it, explore it, feel what you need to feel. And then there was a certain point in time where the guidance came in and it said, okay, you're done. It's like your apprenticeship is complete
Mm.
at the level that it is now. And now it's time to take it up a notch. And so I started taking it up a notch. And 2003, I met my first alchemy crystal singing bowls. And again, I did it sight unseen. Same person, same mentor called me. She goes, they make them in rose quartz and amethyst. And I was like, really? I said, that sounds great. I called the company. I said, can you send me some? And they were like, yeah. So what note you want? I was like, I need this and this. So again, sight unseen. And the older bulls, they're real treasures. And if you go looking around in my room, I mean, this room has like 115
Oh my
alchemy
gosh.
bowls in it.
You're in
Alchemy
heaven.
bowls. Yeah. And many of these are the real old. They're
Mm.
the first. They're the first generation of the alchemy bowls that were made, and they're so beautiful. They have so much depth and history and beauty. And of course, because of the nature of crystal, they've just been absorbing vibration and frequency for now, it's
Mm.
2000 for the last 21 years.
Mm. And
They're saturated.
do you feel that each bowl has its own soul, personality? Do you feel that they're conscious beings?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
There's no question in my mind. I mean, I've experienced that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Mm.
You know, it's I've watched them. I watch them come in. You know, there are there are well, let me just say, in my experience, uh, when a bowl finds its person, it
Mm.
wakes up,
Mm. Wow.
and until that point, it really is asleep.
Wow.
And you can tell because the sound just shifts. There's an energetic shift, there's a sonic shift to it. I mean, we're talking like super, super subtle here, right? But if you're present and you're really listening, you can hear and feel the bowl adjust. And it is like I have seen this, the presence literally just enters the bowl. So I'll give you a good example of this. So
Mm.
this is really fun. I'll show you the bowl that made the most impression on me when that happened.
Oh, is that a
Right?
laughing Buddha?
Laughing Buddha.
Yeah, it's a big,
Oh.
and it's an old laughing Buddha, right? So this is beautiful laughing Buddha bowl. I was traveling around the country. I was teaching workshops and doing practices with people, concerts and activation ceremonies and private sessions. And I also was, a distributor, so I was selling alchemy bowls, well, where I was going, putting them into people's hands. And one of my students, she was going to get this bowl. And I was like, this is perfect. This is like the perfect bowl for her. But she called me up, and about a month later, after she had it, and she goes, I don't think I can do this, and I need to give this back to you. And so she handed me back this bowl, and I knew that it was like, it had like an emptiness in it. So I took it home with me, and I put it next to its cousins. And I said, all right, you're in what I call the bowl hospital. That was some of my bowls, right? I had it in the bowl hospital, and I said, you're just going to sit and be loved on.
Oh.
And so I played it. I was playing it with, other comparable bowls, and just moving it back and forth and back and forth. And then I was doing an event with my main spiritual mentor. And I was talking with her about this bowl, and I had brought it with me. And she and I sat together, and we chanted this bowl awake. And I saw this bowl go zoom, like this in that moment.
Wow.
And I went, okay. And of course, it's never left.
It's meant to be with
It
you.
won't deliver the Ashana.
That is just so beautiful, because I think I know I always think of bowls as coming into your life to wake you up. You choose your bowl, and they're here to complete a part of you, and but we do the same for them as well. I've never heard that. That is absolutely
Absolutely.
stunning.
Absolutely. That is that I'm not trying to make you sound wrong or anything, or diminish you in any way when I say this, but that comes from our very human tendency to objectify objects.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, because we see the world, we see the material world as being in service to us.
yeah.
Oh, it's my piano, it's my glass, it's my phone, it's my book, my.
Mm,
And we don't necessarily have the awareness that all of life, and this includes, the very papers that we write on, but all of it is consciousness.
mm,
And I was shown this very, very distinctly. I think I wrote about this in my book, but I had this remarkable awakening experience in 2010 when I was recording The Infinite Heart.
mhm,
And I had a long, long day of recording and bowl playing and singing. And I was lying in the bathtub at a friend's mother-in-law cottage. And I was in that kind of stupor state, just sort of like this. And I opened my eyes. And when I opened my eyes, everything was light. And I looked at the sconces on the wall, and they were luminous. And I could see into the bedroom where I was, sleep, that was connected to the bathroom. I could see the bed, and the bed was light, and the floor was light, and the chair was light, and the rug was light, and my clothes were light. And I got this, one of those downloads, and it said, we're here to be in service. And that's when I knew. It was like, and I saw it, I felt it. It was like, oh, this precious chair that holds my body
mm,
out of its love of being in service, holds my body. The bed to help me rest, the rug to soften my feet, the tub I'm lying in to hold me. And it lasted for just a few minutes, but it was like this. And then I had, a few years later, we were living in Mount Shasta. I had a very similar experience with the bowls, all the bowls in my room. And they were, I was playing and playing them. And then they looked at me and they said, clairaudiently, they said to me, I mean, as loud as somebody talking in the room, they said, and it was just like this, we think of you as one of us. And I was like, hello? Because it was really funny. And I said, you do? And they said, yes, you're like the orchestra director and the facilitator.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, and they were like, well, you're a bull just like us.
Oh, that's so
And I'm
lovely.
like, oh. And see, I was living in Mount Shasta, California, and I was up there because I love Beverly Wilson of the Crystal Room, and she used to be the owner of the Crystal Room, and at that time, and so many people in the world their bowls have come through her, and really, she and I, she's like my bowl fairy godmother, but more like my mother on some level. And I told Bev what happened, and she just laughed, and she said, well, of course. Of course it's that way. Because for her, everything, all of consciousness was that. For her, it was, her purse was that, the papers were that, the rocks and the crystals and the stones and the car. It was like everything. She lived like that inside that consciousness. It was beautiful.
I've said that quite a lot, that we're it's like a feeling like we are crystal bowls, but they're kind of here to show us what our potential and what we can be. But we're kind of crystal bowls with lots of stress and trauma and limiting beliefs that we kind of have. Well, I guess we're in relationship with the bowls so that they can help us move through these obstacles and become more clear like them. Would you say I'm on track there, or?
Honestly, I mean, it could be,
Mm.
if that's what feels real to you, I always feel it like it's a relationship,
Mm.
um, I think we have to, not we don't have to, but I think it's as I grow and deepen and as I grow up in I hope emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. Um, I I see the unclearing of my own consciousness. And what I tell all my students is this. So when you meet your bull and you're playing your bulls, you think of it, many of you think of it as here's the bull and here's me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. Because once this comes together, there is a new alchemy created. And this is the alchemy of you and the consciousness of the bull. And if you can imagine loving presence, if you can feel loving presence, that is you. That is seeing the world through your eyes. You are the divine presence seeing through your eyes. And I think often we get stuck in, oh, well, I have to heal. I have to, clear my stuff. I have to, get rid of my conditioned mind and my conditioned thinking. And there is inside that language, and I know that language very, very well, having used it myself a lot. Inside that language, there is always this turning of self as an other. An other that is broken, an other that needs work, an other that's insufficient, an other that is not worthy, another it's loaded with all of this stuff. Well, the bulls don't see you like that. They don't even think of you like that. The divine doesn't see you like that. It never thinks of you like that. So we have this amazing opportunity inside this relationship to let go. And this is so precious with the crystal singing bowls because, I believe this is just my experience, and there's so many people playing bowls that are having extraordinary experiences. So, take mine as one of many, okay? That the bowls, their gift to us is, and they have many gifts, but one of their, I think, superb gifts to us is being able to help us release emotional trauma
Mm-hmm.
and to clear and balance the emotional body. And so, in the sounding together, when we hold that intention, even sometimes when we don't, and we're just in the presence and in the space of this beautiful sound, and we give ourselves to it, we open ourselves to it, we receive, we become a receptacle for it. That sound literally just breaks it up. It's like it just starts to, any places where there are tiny little fissures or cracks in how we've crystallized our patterns. That sound frequency goes in there and goes, well, if I just jiggle it enough, and it goes like that. And inside these little breakups, there's this opportunity for the shadow side to be revealed.
Mm.
This is the tough part of bowl
Mm-hmm.
playing,
Mm.
right? Because this is the part where, oh, it's not all peace, love, and light. Because now we open ourselves, as in any really deep spiritual sadhana practice, that when we are experiencing and present with so much light, then our not so much light begins to be revealed.
Mm.
Like I wrote a song a long time ago called "Let Every Door Be Open, Let All That's Hidden Now Be Revealed."
That's brave.
That's from
Yeah.
sound, and we need that because we have to at some point embrace our wholeness.
Mm.
And one of the beautiful gifts we have from the divine is sound and vibrational healing, because it helps us shift the vibration so we can explore and experience and welcome back in those parts of ourselves that have been disconnected and disillusioned and wounded, you know. So that's why sound healing for me, and it doesn't matter whether it's mantra, whether it's a drum, whether it's flute, violin, cello, bowls, harp, doesn't matter whether it's hip hop or gospel. Like they go in there, and sound and music can bring us back to wholeness.
Mm. Could you perhaps share one of the more difficult lessons that the bowls has taught you?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I can. I have to really, I won't say it's the bowls
Mm.
teaching me, right? Because I think it's important to understand that it's not the bowl that teaches you the lesson. Okay? It's not the bowl that brings you peace.
Mm.
Remember, I said there's an alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
There's you and there's the sound. It creates this new alchemy. And inside this you-ness is your soul,
Mm.
is your higher divine self, which in my absolute experience is working in and through all of experience, all of my life experience, to learn, to grow, to expand, to become, more of itself, so that I become more of an embodiment of my soul's expression. And so the bowls came into my life to help me because of my receptivity to sound and frequency, as a being. It came in to help me work through some really hard lessons inside of myself, you know, owning aspects of myself, self-worth, um, expression, being willing to express myself fully, um, being willing to see the places that are not so pretty, you know, places that can be that we would call, jealousy, greed, unkindness, harshness, you know. So these things come out. They have to. They must come out. And when we can understand them and see them, and then or the aloneness, the depression, I would have to say, like every other human being on the planet, I've experienced it all. So, the question is, am I going to, as a being, uh, stick my head in the toilet and stay there? Or am I going to take it out and go, wow, don't think I'll do that again? And so, so we get to go into those places and just like, wow, here I am. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling greed. I'm feeling suffering. I'm feeling victimized. I'm feeling, and I would have to say my mantras, my bowls, my playing piano, they've been part of my process of learning this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Why I have to be really, really careful of saying, oh, it's the bowl that taught me this. No, the bowl didn't teach me this. The bowl didn't make me willing to recognize it, deep dive into it, and do the level of self-inquiry that needed to be done to come out the other side. That wasn't the bowl. That was Ashana
Mm-hmm.
and the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Make
Makes
sense?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I feel like I'm learning a lot.
Well,
Sorry, go on.
yes, indeed. I was just going to say, well, we're all learning from each other.
Yeah. Something we were just, sorry, go on, Carly.
No, you go ahead.
We were chatting about the voice because Carly and I both experience a lot of throat clearing before perhaps we want to share, I guess, the most authentic versions of ourselves. Maybe that's what it is, because when you're playing, it feels like it's so raw sometimes. And I know Carly uses her voice sometimes. I would call myself a singer, but it's a struggle because I've always been taught a certain way, to hit the note for it to sound good. And I know that obviously you are a musician, you're a singer, so we'd love to know perhaps how your voice has changed by playing the bowls, and maybe any resistance or fear that you've experienced from being a singer in the classical sense to then singing for healing purposes. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your journey with the voice and share some wisdom with us.
Oh my God. It's ongoing. I have to say, I'm still finding my way,
Yeah.
discovering things daily, you know. Um, there, oh God, I don't even know how to, that is such a great question, because there's so many things that feed into it, right? Because again, I'm gonna say this again. It's not about the bowl. I know everybody's like, but it's the bowl, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's you and the bowl and the relationship and what that is waking up inside of you, right? So that frequency that you play and where is that taking you, and are you willing to go for the ride? Okay. And there are times I think that the uncovering of the voice is the most important instrument in sound healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hands down. And I know probably all the crystal ball people are like going, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, here I am. I'm gonna say it, but it's your voice. It's the sound of your voice, and your voice is the most healing instrument that you can possibly have. And the nice thing about it is that it's free. It goes everywhere you go. It doesn't need to be packed in a box.
Yeah.
And it is the most profoundly healing instrument that I know. And now you asked about bringing in healing music. That is such a great question, because for me, music, all music can be healing music. So I can comfortably sit down and play and sing songs with a harp, with a bowl, with a drum, and open up my mouth and connect with the frequency of that sound that I'm playing, but more importantly, can be connected into my body and into my heart, and producing that sound that is in that moment both a catharsis and an up-leveling. It's cleansing, it's healing, it's taking me into dimensions. So every instrument that we work with, again, whether it's a bowl or it's a therapy harp or it's a drum, it has its very unique signatory frequency and quality, or a gong. And when the voice comes in contact with that sound, there is this new alchemy, right? It is our listening to that sound and the sharing, the merging of the sounds together. So I am eliciting the vibration from the gong that is coming in and through me and out my voice. The gong is doing the same thing as I'm singing and playing with it. And it is this, like this. It's very sensual. It is a sensory experience of deep listening and sound making that ripple through every cell in your body and ripple out. And so it is literally a wave that you are riding, that you are surfing, and it's a wave in conscious co-creation. Does answer your question?
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, that was beautiful. Is there anything that you wanted to ask around the voice?
I mean, for myself, I notice whenever I share with the bowls, like singing's not my gift at all, but it's such a surrender. It's such a letting go, and then the sound that comes, especially when we're playing the bowls or an instrument, it sort of it changes the voice. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to share on that, like how your voice
Well,
has
yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
Of course it would change. I mean, that is in some ways what I was just describing. So if I were to sit and play like, oh, well, let me just
We're just
like,
picking a bowl.
actually, I'm not picking a bowl. I'm gonna pick a, I'm gonna pick a harp, right? Right? I'm gonna pick a harp and I'm gonna pick a bowl. Right? So because I want people to understand that it is inside the listening. It is the deep listening that we make these micro adjustments to merge in consciousness with the instrument. Now, see, this is where my experience as a musician and as an artist really comes in, because I have sung with orchestras. I mean, 40-piece orchestras. Which is an exhilarating experience, by the way. I've sung with bands. I've sung with other instrumentalists. I can sit here and can you hear the harp?
Oh,
Right? So the sound that comes, it has its own. This sweetness speaks to my voice speaks to it. And then I lean over, well, because baby's here, totally different vibration. Right? So there's that. Take this. Oops, sorry. And then we add. We add this. I'm gonna sing completely differently. This sound is going to elicit something completely different. Right? And if I were to take, I just got a new toy. Right? Here's my new toy. So, taking this, right? I'm going to sing completely differently. I'm going to feel the metal. I feel the rhythmic. I feel the, where this is going. Here I feel the crystal. I can feel the vibrations this way. I play this. I feel it completely differently. So our voices, they're organic instruments. And our voice leans in and breathes with the sound. And we cannot help but do that, because when we are listening deeply with our bodies, with our consciousness, where, this particular sound is opening up our chakras in really particular ways, but so is this one. Different. Right? And then when we go harps, right? It opens up our consciousness in yet another way. For me, like, therapy harps are very much heart-centered instruments. Heart. Drumming is more down, and even this, because this is metal, and this is more like sacral. And these, yummy thing is when you take all three of these and you put them together. And now you're in your body, you're in your center, and you're expanded at the same time. And in your heart. How yummy is that?
You're so lucky to have experienced a private concert with Ashana. Oh, thank you so much for sharing. That was so beautiful.
I mean, did that help,
Yeah. It did. Yeah, it did. Thank you. Because I get a lot of questions, how do you sing with the bowls? And I don't feel like I ever have the answer, but you just said it's just to feel, just to really deep listen,
It's
and then
deep
just
listening.
let what wants it. But there's so much surrender, isn't there, required with that? And that's where I'm at. I'm almost not trusting myself or something. I don't know. There's still a resistance in me, so that was inspiring.
It's also
You know,
beautiful to
I understand. Go ahead,
bring in the
Carl.
other instruments because there's a sort of an upwave of people sharing sound, and sometimes I saw a tendency to like bring in lots of other things, but it was sort of coming from a place of more filling or sort of uncertainty rather than just allowing the silence and the purity and the deep listening. So there's a different relationship that we can have with an instrument when we bring it in, that it's sort of adding to that depth, or it's sort of just adding it in because it feels like we need to give more to
Mm,
provide more. And there's such a difference in these subtleties of over
Yes.
giving and just knowing when there's a place, maybe just for the bowls and just for that silence. And
Mhm.
that I see is not so comfortable for many to just utilize the sound as a means to that connection of silence. Is
Mhm.
anything you feel to share on that?
Oh, I totally agree with you on that. I mean, I'm so glad you raised this because it very much is about uh, deep listening and presence. So, but again, this you said there's like an uptick. I think there's more than an uptick. It's like a tsunami of
Mm,
people, you
yeah.
know, wanting to, they love the instruments and they say, oh, well, I want to be a sound healer. And then there's this, you buy a set of bowls, you take a couple of classes, and now you're out there
Yeah.
doing sound without really understanding what you're doing.
mm, mm,
And
totally.
so one of the first lessons that I had about bowls, and I it's one of my top five mistakes that all crystal bowl players make,
Mm.
and I tell them immediately, and I have a class, and I look at it and I said, first, your number one mistake, you play too much.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
You're always too busy trying to fill the space.
mm.
Stop it.
So
Let
true.
the sound fill the
Mm,
space,
mm,
Yeah.
you know. And so, this is enough, right?
totally.
Just this. And let the sound breathe because we're here to help people have an experience of their own healing and their own silence. We want to help their minds quiet, come to a place of rest. The last thing we need is to fill it up with a lot of stuff all the time.
Mm,
Now, if I'm doing that and I'm creating a flow, then I may, oh, now I add a little and a little of this, but there's this ebb and flow of space for the bowls to be, space for the mantra to be, space for harps, space for the joy and exuberance that comes from lots of instruments joined together in an ensemble. This is part of the artistry of sound healing. It is an art.
mm,
And so, how we bring all those elements together to take people on this journey, where we're carrying them, they go deep. Oh, when do you play the binaurals? God, all the time? Please don't.
mm, mm, mm.
you know? feed it in just the right moment. And now, oh, it's breathing. Now, here comes a mantra. They're like, oh, now we're going to do something different. And every piece, because they are pieces, they're musical journeys, they're musical thoughts that have a beginning, a middle, a development, and an end. Right? So each one has its own space to breathe. And we've taken people where they need to go. And then we listen deeply inside of ourselves to know the next place. What is that? Oh, it might be this. Right? And how you play that after coming out of that is part of that listening. It's part of that artistry. It's part of the sensitive awareness of moving energy and carrying people from place to place. What do they need now? All right, tell me. Show me which way to go. And part of that, is continuously developing your vocabulary of sound making. And so some of what we experience with beginning sound healers is that the vocabulary is very limited. It might be, I can play my 3 bowls. So then you play those 3 bowls to the very best of your ability. And you do it in such a way where you're deeply listening and you're deeply sensitive to the moment and what is needed.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
Is that helpful?
It's really, really helpful. It's a beautiful reminder. Yeah. Thank you. I would love to hear your thoughts on the power of intention.
Oh.
Yeah, we know, when you lie down and receive the crystal frequencies, you feel it. It's so beautiful and nourishing in the body and every part of us. But that added element of intention just adds a whole new dimension to the playing. So yeah, can you speak a little bit about intention and how you see it having an impact?
Well, I'm all for cheerleading Jonathan Goldman's formula that says intention plus frequency equals healing. I'm like, that really is it. When we don't have, there's a couple of things, when we have the intention, but we are missing at least a solid technical skill set, it can be a little disastrous. Right? So this is why I think it's so important for people to blend intention with other things. There was, and maybe still is, for a long time in the sound healing world, that I have seen and noticed, people believing that, well, these bowls, they're so simple to play, all I do is go like this. All I need is my intention and it's great. And that's not true. That in my experience, that is absolutely not true. It's a nice thought, but it's a very elementary approach. So when we have intention that is supported by a consciousness that is vibrating at a very loving, benevolent, compassionate frequency, then healing can occur. And when we support that even further by expert technical skill and other skills that I feel are very important and significant as healing music artists need when they play, then that playing, it just goes, doosh, it just takes off. You know, I love to give this example. I give this example to my students all the time. So let's just say many of you know maybe you know the musician Yo-Yo Ma. He's a cellist. He's a world-class cellist. He's probably the greatest cellist in the world right now, and has been for a long time. And the love in this man's heart is just extraordinary. Well, he plays a $1.3 million Stradivarius and a 750,000 Guarneri cello when he plays. So these instruments are like, you know, the top of the top of the top of the top. And so I said, okay, let's have an example, right? We're gonna take an amazing high school student who's a child prodigy cellist. And she's wonderful. She's got all the technical skills. And we're going to give her that Stradivarius. She sits down. She plays Bach's unaccompanied cello sonata in G. And she plays it. And everybody sits in the audience and they go, oh, that was so great. Wonderful. Wasn't that beautiful? That was just amazing. Can you believe it? She's only like 16 years old and she did this, right? And it's beautiful. And then Yo-Yo Ma comes in. And he sits down and he takes that instrument and he starts to play, and your life will never be the same. Ever. You have just been entrained by the master. Someone with the life and love consciousness experience to hold an extraordinary frequency of love, who has a technical skill set that is beyond the beyond, who is playing an incredible instrument that has a soul in it, that has been seasoned by that relationship and by relationships long before him. Because those instruments are, 300 years old. And now we take the intention of holding a space and filling it with the sound of the angels, which is, I think, what he does, whether it's conscious or unconscious. It is indeed what happens when you hear him play. And you put that together with the frequency, and you have healing off the charts. So our intentions are incredible. They are so necessary to our playing. Because you can also take somebody with superb skill set, and without that intention of healing, it is not healing music anymore. It is an exercise in notes. But you blend it, it's extraordinary. So that's why when you can listen to different singers and you can go, oh my gosh, when she sings that song, everything changes. When she sings the same song, I feel nothing. You know, I remember being at one of my first, attending one of my first voice recitals in college. And there was a young woman, she was giving her recital. And as a technician, as a technical singer, you know, this is opera, classical music, it's a whole different world, right? But as a technician, she was not that great, in the big classical music world, the way the conservatories go. That is not a voice that people would go, oh, wow, that's amazing, That's a so-and-so and a so-and-so. That's a world-class voice, you know. But she sang, and it wasn't a dry eye in the house. Because it was all about this.
Mm.
And who cares?
Yeah.
I'd rather be touched by the intention.
Mm.
So if you can play a bowl in its simplicity, and you can play it decently and effectively without sending anybody running from the room, which is, happens sometimes. But if you can play that, and then you can weave through, your heart space, your intention, you can be connected in love with presence. That sound, one note. What else do you need?
Thank you.
Long answer for a short question.
I could listen to you all day. I'm so annoyed that we only have an hour to play with and it's coming to the end of our conversation. I feel like I can't let you go without this last question that I think about all the time. And it's in relation to bowls and the chakras, because I know there's a very Western theory about how, each bowl has its own chakra that it impacts, and it's just tied up so conveniently and neatly in a little bow. And I was so happy to read in your book that there is no scientific evidence or anything to suggest that a C note is the root chakra, a D note is the sacral chakra. So where does this come from? And what are your current views around notes, bowls, and chakras?
It comes from, I can't remember his name. I'd have to go back and look at my own book for the guy's name, but it comes from some research, not research, but a book that was released in the 70s and the 80s by someone who was speaking about the correlation of light frequencies and color frequencies and sound frequencies. And it's still going through this machination, because what people are attempting to do, in our science, what we're attempting to do is correlate Hertz frequency with light frequency, with color frequency, and turning it into a note. Okay? And so I think where we are right now is, after this teaching, instruction being given in the crystal bowl world, because it really only exists in the crystal bowl world. I mean, if you were to speak to Dr. John Bolia, he's not going to tell you your C is your root and your D is your this. I mean, because and part of the reason for that, it's almost ludicrous, and especially ludicrous with bowls, because every single bowl has an infinite number of harmonics.
Yeah.
And you see we have the note that we hear, right? And that's our fundamental note. And then we have a cascade, we have a river, we have a waterfall, we have a fountain of, hundreds of harmonics of every single note that could possibly exist is singing out in this bowl. And at the very least, with most crystal bowls, let me see if I can have I'll use this one, but I can hear this note, I can hear the octave of this, I can hear this note. I can hear this note, right? So which one is it? Is this G? Is this G that I'm playing? Is this my earth chakra, my 10th chakra? Is this G my throat chakra? Is this C that I hear in this? Is that my root? You know? And this is the place where I go, oh my God, will you just stop it? Because it's like,
Thank God for
this
that.
is
Thank
where
God for that.
this is where your intention, please.
Yeah.
This is where your intention and where your music and your soul, that's where we need to focus and pay attention. Our expertise, how well are you playing? You know, I can't tell you how many people will come to me and they just say, oh, I want an F-bowl for my heart.
I know.
And I go, okay,
Here we go.
you know, there we go. We get that one a lot, you know. Sometimes they want the C, but depending on where you are, that F really is the root. And depending on what system you're listening to. Now, my experience is, which is really lovely, because you know, when we take like an FAC, okay, an F major chord, an FAC, and we play it, for me, that is one of the most heart opening tonalities, is F major, but it's not F, it's F A C, and usually another F on top of that, octave Fs, A, C, and then, you know, whatever happens in between, meaning the player, the intention, the what's being sung or supported through that playing. So the Indian rag system, which is the most sophisticated musical system in the world, and never worried about what note the chakra was. What they did was they connected the scales, the ragas, and you know, Western music, we have like 12, and really about 12. Yeah, we have a major, we have three kinds of minor scales. We have a major scale, we have a chromatic scale, and then we have 7 church modes, pretty much. So 10, okay? We'll take 10. About 10 scales that are used regularly in Western music. So think about in India, that their raga system is anywhere between 350 and 500 scales.
Wow.
That's how sophisticated it is. And those ragas were equated to the time of the day, the season, states of emotions, psychological states. You know, every raga, every scale, every way the notes in themselves were arranged in the scale would have an impact on consciousness. And you started on whatever note worked for you. Okay. so if you were like an A or A flat, and a lot of Indian music is D flat, A flat, this is where it would be. So I think we've gotten our knickers, you know, wrapped up in a twist, and we're looking at the wrong thing here.
So liberating, that answer, isn't it?
It is. It's just truth.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, let's focus on musicality, sensitivity of awareness, and technical skill set, intention, and our own personal evolution, the development and the evolution of our own personal frequency. So that the more we play, the more we are awakening, the more we live, the more we are growing and evolving into consciously beautiful, well-meaning humans that are here to be loving, kind, and in service.
What a beautiful place to finish. Oh, I don't want to finish. Oh, Ashana, thank you so much. It was such an amazing, beautiful conversation. Thank you for sharing so much of your wisdom. And please, can you share anything that you want to about anything that's upcoming for you, any courses or anything that you can direct people to you?
Well, we have, obviously new music that's coming out regularly, so stay tuned to that. I'm teaching a beautiful course. We just finished beta testing it, and now it's getting ready to be offered more to the general public. That is called Celestial Alignment for Healing. That is an 8-week sound healing immersion for people, covering the places that I feel we want to use sound to support our own healing, and places to um, deep dive into, to expand our own self-healing and awareness of healing through sound. So this is Celestial Alignment for Healing. We've had remarkable results from it. We have people that have been coming off their medications. We have people that have been in so much chronic pain that they're now out of the wheelchair and walking. I mean, it's like, and that's anecdotal. There's no, getting ready to possibly collaborate with a world known and respected cardiologist to bring this program to more and more people, to help in ways that I can only say my team has conceived of, that I think is far beyond what I think is possible. So we have that, and we have the new Jewels of Silence 2, which I hope is going to come out. I thought it was going to come out this year, but it's all done. It's in the can, but
Oh, I
we
can't
had
wait.
it's beautiful, and that'll be coming out probably 2025, and lots of singing and touring. So getting ready to, yeah, we're going to be in some places in the States in the fall. And then, of course, I think, as you guys know, we'll be in Cambodia and Angkor Wat in, in November. So lots of things happening. So come and visit soundofashana.com and go my YouTube channel. There's lots of videos, lots of music, and just come into our world, my world. And I'd love to have you. So.
Yes, it is beautiful there. So
Beautiful.
I recommend it as well. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll leave everything in the show notes for our listeners. But yeah, it's been an absolute honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
And you.
Thank you.
Honestly unbalanced.